from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
The rural economy continues to struggle. We have new data. Plus, Texas may be on track for its biggest cotton crop in years, and agribusiness making bin space.
But because we have all of that harvest corn coming to the market, we're not likely, A, to see basis improve, and B, we're not likely to see much price improvement.
Ken Ferry is helping manage MidSeason Nitrogen and carrots in carrots. A story you won't believe on In the Country.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The Rural Main Street Index leaving little encouragement for the farm economy. The latest survey slumping to its lowest level in 9 years. Now it measures the ag economy through the eyes of rural bankers in 10 Midwestern states. The index falling below the 50 mark for July, a level it hasn't seen since November of 2008. Researchers say the major dip is related to drought conditions in pockets of the Corn Belt and weak grain prices. Now that continues to put stress on cash flows and loans. The report also saying on average, bankers expect 15% of grain farmers to see negative cash flows this year. Loan volumes, well, they're also expected to rise. That part of the survey hitting its second highest mark in survey history.
I think liquidity is getting drained down. I'm very pleased to see all lenders, most all lenders, are taking a cautious approach, and they're not overreacting. You know, going through the 80s, one of the things that happened all across Minnesota and a lot of this country was bankers overreacted, and they got everybody so scared, and they drove asset values down to the point where I know in the old St. Paul district, they had to go to land values guaranteed when you had $800 land to assure people that it wasn't going to go lower. So I think a steady hand on behalf of lenders is really important. And the producers, when it turns, not if, when it turns, producers will find a way. You know, they'll manage their resources and be prudent, but as long as the lenders are consistent, that's a big deal.
The index also asking bankers to estimate loan defaults over the next 12 months. They anticipate defaults at 5%, which is down from last year at this time. The new drought monitor is a mixture of vast declines and vast improvements. Now let's start with improvements, and that's in Oklahoma. Last week, about 60% of the state was drought-free, but this week it jumped to nearly 90% drought-free after some nice rains. Just 14% of the state has abnormal dryness. Montana remains the true hot spot, according to USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey. He noticed drought rapidly worsening and expanding westward, even as the Dakotas and Nebraska continue to improve. Just 2% in the southwest corner has moisture, but the northeast corner is severely impacted by various levels of drought. And in Iowa, extreme drought has now entered the picture. D3 covering about 3% of the state, and 70% is covered with some level of abnormal dryness or drought. The North Dakota Corn Growers Association is offering to pitch in to help livestock growers in that state. The group asking farmers to list their acres of corn stover for grazing after harvest. Leaders saying that when a crop fails as a farmer, you move on to next year, adding that fellow ranchers with no feed may have to sell their herds. This year it's not drought but timely rains helping grow cotton yields in Texas. The Texas Farm Bureau agreeing with USDA estimates, saying this could be the largest cotton crop in more than a decade. Now, I was in South Texas last week, and even though harvest is only in the single digits, the results are promising. The signs of cotton harvest already dot South Texas fields.
Cotton's looking good. If the quality's good because we hadn't had a rain since it opened. So we're in good shape.
Fourth-generation farmer Charles Ring and his brother live near Sinton in the Rio Grande Valley. His acres are part of the nearly 6.5 million planted in the state this year, which is almost 1 million more than last year. Timely rains are helping roll up big yields.
We've seen some 2.5 to 2 3/4 bale cotton dry land this year. So, and we haven't even got to the irrigated.
I think this is going to be one of our better years. Of course, every year I tell everybody that we're going to have our best year ever, and I think this year is going to confirm that.
Neighbor Bobby Reeder says those good rains are paying off.
For the past 10 or 12 years, I've been doing the county test plot for cotton, and the yields on it were 2 1/4 to 2.5 bale cotton.
Good news given today's softer prices.
Unfortunately, the cotton is an expensive crop to raise, and you need to make bale to bale and a half just to break even on your expenses.
Cotton, for an example, the seed cost per acre is over $80 just for the seed. And, we can't have an average crop and make that work.
Thankfully, yields appear to be stacked in their favor.
You have to out-yield the market, and that's not a healthy thing to see, because we should be getting ahead this year, and as it is, we're just going to be getting along.
And cotton is following through if we can get it out before anything happens.
Potentially making cotton harvest in South Texas one of the best in a decade. Let's check on field conditions with Mike Hoffman. He has a look in this morning's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Our first crop comment comes from Eric Peterson of Neola, Iowa. Eric says the crop is variable because of heat stress this growing season. His area received hardly any rain in July and had temperatures reaching in the 90s to even 100 some of the days. He thinks the corn yield may be below average at this point in time, but beans may have some potential. Over in Burt County, Nebraska, Matt Nelson says despite dry conditions during the growing season, early season moisture helped the crop. He received 4 inches of rain this week and no hail. He hopes that will make the beans grow. He thinks the crop may turn out better than he anticipated at the beginning of the year. And taking a look at the drought monitor, you can see we're starting to see a little more dryness across Iowa like we just talked about. In the drought monitor, we'll take a closer look at that and have your forecast coming up in a few minutes.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
We've been talking about pricing grain since last harvest, but bin space is about to become a priority. We'll talk about selling old crop corn next in agribusiness, and later digging for treasure. You'll never believe what this woman pulls up with the carrots today on In the Country. Agribusiness, more red on the boards in Chicago. We get details from the CNN.
Kind of a mixed bag of treats across the board. We have corn and wheat both trading lower. Soybeans coming off the lows in this afternoon session. But let's start looking at that new crop corn contract. That's going to be December, the month of interest for us. We have a big crop tour going out next week, which could give us a better idea of what these yields actually hold. If you recall, USDA recently printed about a 169.5. A lot of people trying to call the bluff, saying that we're going to come in lower than that, thinking that it'll support the market. But the bluff is being called by the funds, and we're seeing some selling pressure here throughout the week. We're kind of at a pivotal spot, 355, 358.5. It's going to be the big level to hold on a closing basis to round out the week. We haven't quite got down there yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we test that. That is the last August lows. If we're able to hold price action above this, I think we could get some more momentum if we get some bullish reports from next week's crop tour. Let's start looking at the live cattle contract, October, the month of interest. We had a pretty decent session yesterday, but failed to get any more momentum here in the early morning trade, and I think that invited sellers back in. We were really looking to see if we couldn't retest that 111 level for a spot to sell, but couldn't even sniff it, and now we're breaking down again, and this failure to break out with additional momentum, I think, could potentially lead to more pressure below 105. That's what we're looking at. That's what you should be looking at too. This has been Oliver Slope with II Trader from the floor of the CME.
Harvest is right around the corner in many places. Last year's crop is still sitting on the farm. Tyne Morgan asked for ideas on making bin space in today's analysis. Tyne?
Here now with Mike North of Commodity Risk Management Group. Mike, let's talk about this old crop corn. I mean, we know that some of our viewers have not had as many opportunities as they've had in beans to price corn at profitable levels. So if they're still setting on old crop, we're getting ready for harvest. What should they do at this point?
Well, basis has remained wide throughout the country. It's been very disheartening for those who have been storing corn. The thing we have to remember is that as we work into this next harvest, if there is a yield cut, that's a wonderful piece for new crop, But because we have all of that harvest corn coming to the market, we're not likely, A, to see basis improve, and B, we're not likely to see much price improvement. So really it becomes a liability in the bin, and we've encouraged our clients on these rallies to be making sales and cleaning those bins out and moving forward. Right now, option premium is cheap. If you want additional opportunity in an upside market, look at a call option, but don't be keeping corn in the bin. It just becomes more of a liability as we walk our way through the next several months.
Yeah, what about next year? You know, I've heard some say if you didn't sell your corn last year and you weren't eager to sell your corn last year, don't be eager right now to sell your new crop inventory. What are you thinking?
Well, if you do have storage capacity with basis as wide as it is, if your cash flow allows it, then ultimately that basis opportunity may get better, especially if yields get shortened up as we head towards fall. And so there is some opportunity there for that new crop walking forward into 2018, but your cash flow has to allow you to do that. And so as it stands today, carry is decent. I'm not going to call it great, but you could sell that forward into a little better price, wait for basis to improve, set your basis later, and in the meantime be carrying, again, call options are cheap, be carrying some call strategies to allow you upside if there is some sort of a runaway bull market around the corner.
All right, thanks Mike North. Plenty of options there. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a moment.
Cut through the uncertainty in the markets. Give Mike a call at 608-764-0012.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Your meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at that drought monitor, and Mike, that northern plains, although it is stretching into Iowa now.
I know, that is a concern, obviously, right into the western portions of the Corn Belt. And you can see how that drought area that we've been talking about across the Dakotas has expanded toward the southeast just in the past couple of weeks. It's still very dry in the Dakotas, eastern Montana, despite having gotten some rain recently. But this is a long-term drought. Takes a while to get out of it. This is what it looked like 4 weeks ago. You can see really it was already becoming very bad across the many parts of the Dakotas into eastern Montana. We went to an exceptional drought in parts of that area for a couple of weeks there, and that has lessened up a little bit, as you'll notice in the latest one there, not a whole lot. But it has expanded, like I said, into parts of northeastern Nebraska, Iowa, even into a little chunk of Missouri and Illinois there. Let's take a look at the moisture today, and it's along a couple of systems. One in the Great Lakes in the northeast, that's where most of that moisture is with that system. This is a small system, not going to produce widespread heavy rains or anything as we head through the day. And you can see heading through time, the first cold front into the southern and central Appalachians, showers and thunderstorms into the mid-Atlantic as well. Stationary front still producing some activity in Florida, and that system obviously across Minnesota down into the central plains. That will continue to head east. You can see high pressure coming in behind that's going to dry things out again, and the next front really has very little moisture along it. Taking a look at the rest of the day tomorrow, then you can see how the first front's into the southeast, so it's already drying out much of the northeast. The secondary one kind of coming through the Ohio River Valley, parts of the lower Great Lakes with some scattered showers and storms. We'll continue to see scattered afternoon activity in the southwest. Precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours, most of it has been in the east, and as you'll notice, that second system kind of producing scattered light amounts for the most part. A few spots might get a half inch or so, but it's mainly out ahead of this first system and also that stationary front in Florida. High temperatures today, pretty hot south of those two fronts, but cooler off to the north and less humid in the northern plains. Low temperatures tonight going to drop off into the 60s across most of the northern portions of the Corn Belt from St. Louis southward, though holding in the 70s. Highs tomorrow afternoon, kind of more of the same. Lots of 80s and 90s throughout the Southland, but some 70s showing up Great Lakes, northern Mississippi Valley into the northeast. There's the jet stream, and you can see the first trough kind of digging through. Then we go zonal for a while. That's where we warm up a little bit again, and then our computer model continues to go back to the trough in the east, ridge out west next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We'll head to Bakersfield, California. First of all, tons of sunshine and warm, high around 100. Fort Dodge, Iowa, variably cloudy, an afternoon thunderstorm likely, high of 80 degrees. And in Hampton, Virginia, hot and humid with an afternoon thunderstorm in some areas, high around 90.
Don't go away. We'll talk managing mid-season nitrogen with Ken Ferry on Corn College TV. That's next. And we'll tell you about good fortune in the garden. And the message should ring true for married couples. Nothing helps offset low prices like maximizing yields. Well, this morning on Farm Journal College TV, Ken Ferry helps us manage our mid-season nitrogen needs.
We're here with Farm Journal field agronomist Ken Ferry, and today we're going to be talking about nitrogen mid-season. So Ken, as we're looking behind us, looks pretty good. So how do we make the decision whether at this point mid-season if we should apply more and the economics behind that?
That's a question that's been coming in a lot because of the rainy spell we've just been experiencing, guys. How much have I lost? Really looks good. I don't want to give up on the opportunity. Should I just go out there and add some more nitrogen to that picture? And that sounds like a simple process, but the reality is, one, this corn plant's talking to us right now and says it's not deficient at this time. And there's no way to look at it and know if it's going to be deficient in the end of the grain fill itself. So we're getting kind of late in the situation here to be doing something within it. So the caution would be probably you're not going to make an application. At least if you are, you're going to pull a nitrate sample and you're going to look at the soil nitrates to decide if maybe your tank's going to run empty before you get there. Because if we come in here right now, we're going to have to either have high clearance equipment to get this in, and it's going to have to be pretty good size equipment, and that's going to be costly, or we could fly it in with an airplane, but when we fly it in the airplane, we do run the risk of causing burn on these leaves, and that burn, of course, is open for diseases such as Goss's wilt, something like that. You literally could be adding $60 to your expense side of the sheet, but not adding anything to the yield itself. And I know pushing it for that higher yield is kind of exciting, but it really is something that you'd have to be careful with, especially when the base of this plant is telling us it's okay. Nitrogen is mobile. It'll come out of those lower leaves and move to the top when it needs it. So we'll look at the next row and we'll show you that the plant is telling us something different.
So we've moved over a little bit, and now we can clearly see that this plant is nitrogen deficient.
Correct. So we're looking at this plant, and the lower leaves, most of them are already gone. They've been cannibalized. The plant is off in color. This plant is talking to us. It's in trouble right now, and it's trying to get pollinated. Most likely, it's not going to have enough nitrogen to finish it. Now, I'd like to have my nitrogen on the week before, no later than the week after pollination. So we'd have to react pretty quick here. I would still pull a nitrate to decide how far off it is, and then I would make the application accordingly, but it would need to happen pretty quick. In this case, if you had high clearance and you could dribble it down here at the base, that'd be a good thing. But either way, you need to get some nitrogen on here because we're starting to really give up yield in this situation.
Still to come, a story about carrots and carrots in the country is next.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota. Check out Kubota's RTVX 1140, a rugged utility vehicle with seating for 4. Stop by your local dealer today or visit Kubota.com.
Well, here's an important lesson for farmers or gardeners who might reach their hands into the soil to check the tilth or hand pull some carrots from the ground. Canadian farm wife Mary Grams was just reunited with her engagement ring that she lost 13 years ago in her garden. Mary's daughter-in-law found the ring while pulling weeds. It was around a misshapen carrot.
Why I didn't grab it with my right hand or leave it alone, I'll never know. And somehow it must have hooked the ring and the ring fell off. I started looking, I crawled my hands and knees, but I got nowhere, and I don't know, I tried this for how many days.
But Mary had no luck, and she didn't tell her husband. Mary even went to a jeweler to see if she could find a replacement. That was decades ago. So a few days ago, Mary's daughter-in-law was picking carrots for dinner and saw something strange when she pulled the special carrot. As she was washing them, she noticed the ring. Fortunately, Mary had told her son, so he knew exactly what this discovery was.
She said, "Did you lose an engagement ring?" And I said, "Yes." And then she kind of started laughing.
Mary and her husband were married for 60 years, but he died 5 years ago and never knew the truth. Now, Mary says the ring slid on her finger just as it did when her husband, Farmer, gave it to her. The farm has been in the family for 105 years. What a great story. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent some time with us. For Tyne Morgan and Mike Hoffman, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest lasting pickups.